Welcome to the presentation. This is on ReactJS and Drupal, how to use them together to write content-rich JavaScript and RESTful web applications. These could include single-page applications, or not necessarily single-page, many pages, but just rich JavaScript inside a website, like a content-based website such as Drupal. Or they could also mean mobile applications, mobile web applications, and the whole spectrum. Okay, so once again, ReactJS and Drupal, how to use them together. This presentation will unfortunately not be teaching you ReactJS itself. Okay, so this is not about learning ReactJS, and this is also not about learning Drupal. It's the interface between Drupal 8 and ReactJS. Most of what you will learn here, not everything, but most should apply to other JavaScript frameworks such as Angular and so on and so forth. So the agenda will be what should be the workflow, and how should you go about developing it, what kind of security concerns challenges you're going to face, how are you going to configure the back end, how are you going to write the front end, and then where to go from there. Okay, so my name is Jitesh Doshi. I am with Spinspire. We are you'll see what we are, but in any case, the screencast video, of course Atlanta Drupal Camp will post it, but then I already have this video posted. Sat down in my office and recorded something, so you can see that too. Either way, and then the source code for the demo and the demo application, etc., is already posted on Bitbucket. This presentation will be attached to my session notes, so you can see that. All right, so what's your motivation? Why are you here? You like to use Drupal, and Ajax and single-page applications are all the rage. And ReactJS is even more important now. It's like the latest, hottest, but maybe not. Maybe Vue.js, maybe whatever the next thing is, right? So it keeps changing, right? So that's why I said most of what you learn might be applicable, will be applicable in other JavaScript frameworks. And the REST support was contrib in D7. In D8, it is not only it's in core, it is far more extensive. If you look at the list of things that are available in the REST UI, what kind of REST services you can expose, not just nodes and terms and users and all that, much more than that. Your content types can be exposed, views, the administrative side of the views, etc. Everything is. So basically, why would you want to mix Drupal with a JavaScript framework such as React or Angular or Vue.js? I think we have seen enough examples of this, and I do believe that it's pretty straightforward. It's obvious why, but still I will say, because your content lives in Drupal. Content is what the editors edit, but the overall structure of your website or a web application, etc., especially web applications that are very content rich, such as let's say a news app or even an e-commerce app, a mobile app, that is. But all the widgets, all the products that you're selling are managed by Drupal, let's say. So that would be another example why you would want to mix the two. All right. A little bit about us, Spinspire. We are a Jacksonville, Florida-based company. We are basically, a group of Drupal experts, and we have contributed some two top-level projects, Popular Tags and PRLP, which is Password Reset Landing Page. So these are full projects, and there are also a bunch of sandbox and other types of projects that we have contributed, and we still maintain. These modules, they have D6, D7, and D8 versions. So that's nice. We have some interesting clients such as Nike, Florida Blue, and federal government. And now I forgot to add a PGA Tour. Some well-known names, and then some less well-known as well. We still have a lot of fun with those as well. And you can check us out. Anyway, back to the topic at hand. I'm assuming that you know a lot about a little bit about ReactJS, but I'll just cover the highlights. It's not full MVC; it's only Vue, which means it deals with the front end only, and it doesn't go very deep into state management, etc. But then it has add-ons like Redux and everything that will do that for you. Unlike Angular, which tries to cover the whole gamut. Okay. It has add-ons for everything else. Like I said, routing, state management, Ajax, everything. It uses add-ons for that. The core is smaller. The key concept that ReactJS seems to have brought to the table is virtual DOM. So rather than, it turns out that the actual browser DOM is a very complex data structure that takes a lot of time, in computer time, that is. A few milliseconds maybe. Even if it is 1,000 microseconds, that's a lot. That's a millisecond actually. Sorry. So they came up with virtual DOM, where basically you manipulate whenever the code is manipulating, wants to manipulate the actual physical DOM. First, keep a mirror image of that DOM in a simpler data structure, manipulate that data structure, and then once that is done, once the background thread is completed, and it's time to update the UI, just apply the deltas between what the DOM was versus what it is, and here are the deltas. Apply the deltas to the physical DOM, and that changes things on the page. So it turns out that it's more efficient than doing it directly in the physical DOM. So it lets you build components that can be injected in the DOM and updated when state changes. What does that mean? Basically, it lets you invent new tags, more or less. Just like you have heading 1, heading 2 tags, paragraph tag, and so on and so forth. Now you are writing in terms of product tag, customer tag, order tag, cart tag, cart item tag, and so on and so forth. I'm just making this up, but these are examples. So these would be what React would call components. Now it can be used with ES5, the JavaScript that we all know and hate, and but it can be, the recommended way of using ReactJS is with ES6, ECMAScript 6, or they also call it ES 2015. So you write your code in ES6 or ES 2015 and then transpile it to plain JavaScript. So again, if you have done any work with ReactJS, then you probably are familiar with this workflow, but this is just a background. Okay. All right. So now our goal is we can write, let's assume that we know how to write a ReactJS application and how to add some Ajax to it so that it can fetch data from the server, and the server being Drupal in this case. So, but now you have to enable Drupal to be able to serve RESTful services. So it's pretty straightforward to set it up. I mean, it's just one module, and that is the REST module. The third bullet here. I'm installing these just so that I have some dummy content, and this is the key one, REST module. But the by the way, REST module comes with the core, so you don't have to download it. But for better or for worse, a REST module does not have any kind of UI. So configuring it, your two choices are: one, to edit YAML files by hand and import them into your configuration if you know the format and everything. That's always an option. But I think more practical option is to install the REST_UI, REST UI module. You install that, and once you install that, you get this UI right here. So as you can see, admin config services REST, and here, and you go to it using this web services REST. This is how you go there. And I have already enabled one resource called content, which is basically nodes. And I have also enabled retrieval, updates, and deletes, and post creation, everything. All those I've enabled. And I'll go into this a little bit more. But just take a look at the ones that are disabled. What a comprehensive list that is. So this is what I was talking about. In Drupal 8, the list of entities that you can manage through RESTful services is pretty comprehensive. You can, I mean, actions, block, you can manage your blocks through RESTful services. Quite impressive, right? So pretty much everything that is an entity, even I think even configuration entity, all of the configuration I think is available. Let me check. Well, maybe not. So, but I mean, things like date formats are available. So that's saying something. Anyway, so it's pretty comprehensive what you can do with RESTful services in Drupal 8. And all of this is available straight from core. The only thing that the contrib module does is add the UI to it. So that's good. Let's go back. So you enable REST, and then you download REST UI also and enable it. And then I'm just generating some random content. Okay. Right, so once you enable REST UI, let me just show you. There is another. Okay, I go to REST. Okay, so then when you enable any particular resource, if you click edit on this, so this is what, when I first enabled it, I saw this page. So it's basically asking us, do you want to enable which HTTP methods? Get, post, delete, patch. You know what get does. Retrieves it, post, creates it, delete, deletes it, and patch lets you update it. So the difference between patch and put, which is not listed here, put completely replaces a resource. So which means you have, when you use put, you have to provide a complete copy of the original with some modifications, and that's what you use with put. But patch is slightly friendlier, I guess, where you can only the fields that you are providing, they will be modified, and those that you omitted will be left alone. And so patch is better in that sense. Put, on the other hand, whatever fields you omit in your post, in your body of the HTTP request, will be deleted or nullified, I guess. So that's something you probably don't want. And now the granularity here basically says, do I want to set my security requirements for each method like this, one at a time per method? Or do I want to do this at resource level? In which case, in my case, I did that at resource level. I want my authentication and the request formats to be managed at the whole resource level and not at each method level. So once you have set those things, you can now go to your website. So in my case, let me just go here. Let's say if I go to my content page, and there is this node, which is node 59. If I go to node/59, I get this the node. Of course, this is Drupal. There's nothing different here. The other thing is, but if I go to node/59 and then a query parameter format equal to JSON, this is what I get. So this is the result of enabling RESTful REST module. So as you can see, you get the entire representation of the complete node, including, I mean, it's a little bit hard to read. I should have installed a JSON formatter extension on this. Anyway, so, but it includes the complete information. Whatever you are going to get through node load, you're getting it here. Whatever is in the database plus other things. Okay, so obviously this is retrieval, get, you can use something like Postman or one of the other those Chrome extensions that allow you to test RESTful services, and you will be able to do post and patch and delete and everything. I usually, my favorite way of doing that is curl. So I basically do this with curl. So if I take this URL, I go back here, and I say curl -v, and then paste. And that prints. I mean, and of course, this is just the same output, but it also allows me to do post x post, and then I can give data equal to, in here you can put your entire JSON, okay, and so this will and if you were to post, you would not post to, so that's the other thing I wanted to show you. When you want to create these nodes, for creation the URL is slightly different. /entity/node, not just /node and you post to it. No, you post to /entity/node, and that creates a new node. I'm not going to do that just yet because I don't have. If I try to do that, it will say you're not allowed. You don't have the access, so it will fail. So if I try to post to entity node, it will fail. Oops. Hold on, I meant to do this. Yeah, so if I say -v, yeah, so I get access denied, I'm assuming. Is that what I got? Yeah, unsupported media type. Oh, sorry. So if I say, okay, so to specify the media type, I send a header saying that my content type is application JSON. And now the error is 400 bad request because it could not parse my JSON. But even if I give it correct, in the end, it will just give me access denied because I'm not allowed to post without proper authentication. So that's what we are going to come to, but I'm jumping ahead. So let me just get back to the presentation. So I already showed you how you can retrieve your nodes in JSON. Now that alone can be very helpful, very useful, because now once you get your nodes in JSON, you can be consuming them, you can be presenting them through a single page application, whether it is ReactJS or Angular or Vue.js or anything. You could be presenting them on a mobile application, native mobile or otherwise. So that itself is a good beginning. But then you can create new nodes with, like I said, with the /entity/node route, and then you can patch, which means update and delete as well. Now the other thing is you can create views and add REST export display type. So if you add to your, so this is very commonly used, feature where you have a view, which is it shows you some content listing, and you want to make that available. You want to convert that into a single page application, Ajaxified representation. You can do that by simply adding this REST export display to your view. All right, and then so in this situation, I myself created. So this node/REST is not an actual built-in route, but I created that. So what I did was I go to structure views, and I have a view. Let's say, yeah. So this is the front page. This front page view comes with Drupal, as you know. I didn't create it. But what I did was I simply went into the front page view and added a new display, this one. I went to add REST export, this one. So that's how I created this REST node list, and its path is node/REST. So this is obviously arbitrary. I chose that on my own. So you could, so if I go to /node/rest, and I get a very, very condensed list of nodes. And I have, because this is views, and views supports pagination, you can say page number equal to 1. That's the next page. You can say page number 2, and that's the next page, and so on and so forth. So it allows pagination through query parameters. So if you have used views, you know that it does otherwise. But the same capability comes to REST as well. All right. So now that we have the basics, where you have, if you want to retrieve a single node, use the first form. If you want to get a list of them, you use the second from last. And now if you want to create them, you use the second bullet, and so on and so forth. We'll show that in a second. So now all this part, whatever we discussed so far, is fairly simple. You know, if you have worked with RESTful services at all, these things are very straightforward. Where it gets a little bit tricky is when we start talking about security. Okay, so Drupal will require you to, because Drupal doesn't want cross-site queries. It wants to make sure that you are authorized to even retrieve information, not only not only create or modify, right? So you have to get a CRSF. Is it CSS? I think there is a spelling mistake. It should be CSRF. Sorry. So CSRF is cross-site request forgery token. So you have to retrieve a token. This token is available to I suppose anybody, but let's see. So REST session token. So if you go to REST, because I've enabled REST module, I can simply go to REST session token, and you get this token. This token, by the way, is not especially protected or anything. This is just to make sure that you are really on my site and not consuming it from another site. So if you, so here's my incognito window, and if I put that in the browser, I still get a REST token. And as you can see, it's different from, it's per session basically. If I reload, I get a different one. So every anonymous user is getting a different one, even if they are anonymous, right? While me, because I'm logged in, I can reload it any number of times, and I get the same one. Sorry. That's because I'm logged in. So when you're logged in, your session is maintained, of course, so you get the same session for a little while at least. While when you are anonymous, every anonymous user is new, so you get a different session every time. I'm reloading, so that's what I was doing. So this token is required when you are making anything other than GET request. When you're making these requests, you have to include this token that is as a header, XCSRF token. So which means if you are doing this in curl, you would say add a header XCSRF token colon, and then the value will be I guess this. So you just put that. So this is basically required if you are going to do anything other than read-only operations. So there it is. Okay. Now, if you are here's the thing, in ReactJS. Now this is where the interface of Drupal and ReactJS comes into play. In ReactJS, if you want to send the same token with every AJAX request, and you don't want to modify all your code to add that request ahead of everything else, you can do that using, let me just show you here. So I have, this is my ReactJS code. This is my app component, the main ReactJS component. It has a constructor. And in the constructor, I say this.init AJAX, initialize AJAX. So when you are initializing AJAX, by the way, I'm using Axios. Axios is the AJAX library, preferred AJAX library for Drupal, for ReactJS. Sure. Okay. I can increase the font size. Let me. Is that good or more? More? Is that good?
I don't think it's actually changing on our view of it.
Change a little bit.
There we go.
Okay. All right. Good. So yes. So Axios, thanks for pointing that out. I do want it to be visible to everybody. So Axios is the is an add-on, I guess, it's an independent library for Ajax. You could use jQuery's Ajax capabilities, but I found Axios to be more flexible. You could use anything. But in case of Axios, if you want all requests to have a certain, you want to have that header, you basically what we are doing is in that init Ajax, we are building this. We are fetching the token. So here's the token URL, the same one that I put into the browser earlier, and as we initialize Axios object, this is the Axios object, and this Axios object eventually will become a part of the object of this app object, which is this one. This.ajax is Axios, okay? And in that Axios object, what I'm doing is I'm saying I'm first fetching that token, okay? Once I fetch that token, which I get, yeah. So here's the token URL. Okay, and I obtain a request, I execute the request, and when it succeeds, what I want to do is I want to get the response data, which is the CSRF token, and I put that CSRF token in my Axios object that I'm about to create. So this is Axios.create, and so what we are doing here is we are saying I want to create an Ajax requester object, if you will. So which is the Axios object, and so this is the constructor for it. These lines, they don't actually, these lines are not making an Ajax request. They are creating an Axios object, and in that constructor, you are basically specifying all my requests are relative to this base URL. All my requests should be made with credentials, which means include the authentication cookie, which we will see in a second. That comes later. And then all my requests should have this header, X CSRF token, and here's the value of the CSRF token. So this way, you specify it only once while constructing the Axios object, and from this point onwards, this.ajax object, which I'm using later, as you can see in other parts of the code, I don't have to specify anything about what my base URL is. So base URL is already specified. All requests are relative to that base URL. I don't have to specify the XCSRF token. None of those things are specified every time. They just specified once during the construction of this object. Okay, so that is one aspect of security. So you have to get the CSRF token and include it with every request. The second part of security is actual authentication, which is whether you are admin user or you are Jitesh user or you are anonymous user or any user, whichever. Of course, anonymous users don't have authentication, but others do. So that authentication needs to be supplied. So there are many ways of supplying that authentication. If you go to Drupal's module list under extend, you will see that there are authentication modules. If I say auth, so HTTP basic authentication is available, and I have not turned it on. This is very much an option. What does that do? Basically, if you want to authenticate, your Ajax request wants to authenticate itself by taking the username and password and sending that in plain text as a header and all, right? Then you can send it. It's not as bad as it sounds. You could be doing this over HTTPS, in which case plain text is, I guess, okay. But even then, I don't like it, okay? Because then that means I have to store that username password somewhere, and my Ajax application gets in the business of maintaining usernames, password, etc. I don't want any of that, right? Or even accepting it from the user. Now the user has to enter once to log into the Drupal site, and then once to log into my Ajax application. Both times they have to supply the username, password. So that's a bad user experience, and I believe less secure, harder to maintain, all kinds of trouble. There's a better option. And that is what I was showing you earlier, which is in web services REST configuration of my particular resource, the node resource here, I checked cookie. If I had enabled basic authentication, there would be another checkbox here that cookie authentication is available and basic authentication is also, basic HTTP authentication is available. I'm not interested in that. I checked cookie, which was anyway available out of the box. Now, what is cookie authentication? Whenever you are logging into your own Drupal site, let me just show you here in your network. I went into the Chrome tools, developer tools, and if I reload, I want to show you that how do we authenticate. When we first logged in, we were issued a cookie, and that cookie establishes our session and our identity. If you see the request headers, look at the request headers. You see this, there is one cookie called for Google Analytics, but here's your session cookie. Okay, so this is the cookie. It's a secure cookie. As you can see, the left-hand side, the name of the cookie itself is pretty complicated. So it's a hash of something, and then the value, of course, is another hash. So the point is, this cookie is establishing your identity as admin and also your session as whatever your session is. So once you enable cookie authentication, you are telling Drupal that when I perform any operations, AJAX operation through your RESTful service, I'm going to send this same cookie, this cookie. Okay. So now this can be tricky. This can get tricky. Now, how do you get if your RESTful app, how will your AJAX request send the cookie? Does it have the cookie? The answer is, how does your browser in every subsequent request, for example, here, if not only the first request, but all subsequent requests are also sending the same cookie. So how are they sending it? And the answer is, that's just what browsers do. If I look at any other subsequent request to the same server, you will see that the cookie is still there. Okay, so that's the nature of cookies. When you go to the same website, and whatever cookies were issued, the same cookies are included with every subsequent request. So that's nice. And as a result, as long as you keep your the AJAX application being served from the same exact server, not same server, but same host name for that matter, this host name, right? AJAX requests will also include the cookie, same cookie. They are allowed to. Cookies issued by a single host name, all requests originating from the client to the same host name will include the same cookie. Only if when creating this, one second, only if I make sure I include this. Oops, sorry, this is hard to read. Yeah, this with credentials equal to true. As long as with credentials is true, that's when Axios will send the cookie. The Axios has access to the cookie. Why? Because it's being served from the same server. Okay. Now, so this is not exactly same as the same origin policy, but this is basically cookie domain. Cookies are either host specific or domain specific, right? So in that situation, what we could do is not only the same cookies are available to the same host, all requests is going to the same host, but also to a subdomain. So this is the second part of the strategy. When you are going to do your ReactJS app development, it's hard to do it always inside Drupal, right? You want to do it independently and then add it to Drupal, if you want to even add it to Drupal, or you want to do it completely independent of Drupal and just access Drupal as a backend. So either way, the same cookie can be used by all subdomains of the same domain, which means if you create your AJAX application as a subdomain of your primary domain, so if your primary domain is spinspire.com, then you could say, hey, I want to place my application, let's say store, I'm selling merchandise So Spinspire merchandise. So then I can say store.spinspire.com, which is a subdomain of spinspire.com. Therefore, the cookie issued by spinspire.com is usable by store.spinspire.com. So that's exactly what I'm doing. I have a subdomain created for the same site, and here is my ReactJS app. This is a standalone ReactJS app. Okay, so this is very simple one. I basically went to that node/rest. By the way, let me see how I'm doing with time. Okay, almost there. So I'm just using node/rest view, which is REST exported, and I'm displaying whatever that view was giving me. And then I'm using pagination here. So and it just makes another AJAX request to the same view, and it's showing me the other nodes. If I click on it, I have, if you can see the bottom left corner, at least some of it you can see, is basically pointing, although my application is at app.d8react, but this link points to not app.d8react, but d8react, the parent domain. And when I click on it, it actually takes me to that page. So the way the other thing is that when I click on any particular node, that node gets loaded up here in this. So let me just go to the very first page. Okay, so this one. So I must have edited this particular node in the past. Oops, what did I just do? Sorry. Whoa, it's not refreshing. Interesting. Oh, I don't know why it didn't refresh the last time. Anyway, so if I click on this row, it gets loaded up here in the form. This is a ReactJS form, and I must have edited once in the past, so it's a V1 version 1. I just change it to V2, let's say, and if I change the body also to V2, this is obviously random content. If I hit save, you saw that the application updated itself. It's on version 2. If you actually go into the actual node, it is updated. So patch requests are working, right? And the way now to actually understand what's going on, I need to take you into the Chrome Developer Tools. And here, if I one second, if I let's say take this one again. Oops, why do I keep clicking on this? Yeah. So if I click on this, and let's make it V3 version 3, let's say. And let me clear this because I want to show you what happens when I hit save. So here is the request. The first one was, this one is an options request. So options requests are, they're called the pre-flight request, to make sure that the access control oh, I never went over these. There are some changes that you have to make to your services YAML. I'll come back to it. But in any case, those are pre-flight requests, and this is the real actual request. As you can see, it's the patch request, and it's updating. And when it sends the request body, it's basically sending the node body, the title, and the type, etc., but not the rest of it. And because it is a patch request, it doesn't nullify all the other fields that were omitted. So that's what is happening under the covers. And here's your CSRF token as well. By the way, all this code will be available online. So it's not, I mean, I don't want to get into nitty-gritty of everything, right? I just want to tell you what's going on at high level. And then, as you can see, the cookie is included. Although the app is running on app.d8react, but and the request is actually going to d8react, which is where Drupal is running. Okay, so AJAX app is running in a different host name, but it's a subdomain. So it's making a request to the parent domain, and because it is a parent domain, the same cookie is included. And here's that cookie, which basically means I'm making request. Drupal sees this request coming as admin user. That's the key thing here, right? Although it's not even coming from within Drupal, it's coming from outside Drupal, because the cookie is included, and we said cookie authentication yes. That's why it's recognized as a request coming from admin user. Okay, so once you do those things, it allows you to make updates. So one thing that I have not gone over is this. Yes. In your services.yaml, now if you're familiar with Drupal 8, hopefully you have seen services.yaml. Service.yaml is, I guess, your container configuration file. So Drupal acts as a container here, and each service is a component within that container. And CORS, which is cross-origin resource sharing, sorry. That is a term used in AJAX or RESTful services world. Cross-origin resource sharing needs to be configured. So first of all, CORS config has to be enabled true. This is not on by default. You have to allow specific headers. Why is it cross-origin? That's the first question, really. If you were running the AJAX application in the same exact domain, by the way, what I mean by that, instead of adding this prefix to my domain, if I added a suffix, which is this, right? Well, this one obviously is not working. But you could have created a sub path within your application, within your Drupal site, and that would not be cross origin. That's the same origin. They are both on the same host, right? Same host name. But in my case, that's not what I'm doing. I'm actually doing this, where it's a different host right there. So so that's why it's cross-origin, and therefore I have to enable cross-origin resource sharing true. These are the things, changes that you have to make in your services.yaml. And in case you didn't know where services.yaml is, it's here in sites default services YAML. So there you will see course config. There it is. So these are the changes that I had to make. So you have to enable cross-origin resource sharing. You have to allow certain headers coming from cross-origin, and these are the CSRF token and content type, at least these two. And the methods. By the way, you could just, I'm just giving you most precise information. You could have simply turned this into star, and that's fine. All headers are allowed cross-origin. Same thing, you can say allowed method, you could say star. But I'm just giving you complete lists because I just want to give you complete information. Now origins, allowed origins, you could make it either star, or you could make it very specifically app.d8-react and so on and so forth, the rest of my host name. So and I would recommend that in your production sites you should probably do that, right? The rest of them, exposed headers and max age, all these I don't know. But support credentials, of course, that means sets the access control allow credentials header. So this basically means that I want a cross-origin request. They can include their session cookies, and I will respect them. So that's what this is doing. So once you put all this information in your services.yaml, Drupal, and then of course clear cache as always. Drupal will start respecting cross-origin AJAX requests. All right, so how should you, I think we should start wrapping up now. So what have we talked? We have talked about the CSRF token and the credentials, the cookie credentials, allowing the credentials to come through cross-origin requests, and other things like enabling your whitelisting your host. Either star. Star means anybody can make cross-origin requests, but configuring your host specifically to make cross-origin requests, your AJAX application host. Once you do all those things, you're all set in terms of a configuration. But you could use this demo app as the starting point. It has a lot of the work already done. Like I showed you, it already sets up your AJAX so that it goes with all the credentials, etc. In this particular case, the demo app is doing something simple. which is paginate through the list of nodes, allows you to delete nodes, by the way. I can delete this node. So if I, this v3, for example, I have created, right? It's still there. But if I hit this, it issues a delete request. It's gone. If I come back here and refresh, it will say not found. Because it does get, patch, delete, and post also. So if to show post, I can just create a demo node 1 demo body. If I save it, got saved, and if I click on it, it actually shows me the, obviously it's very, very short, small node, demo node 1 and demo body. So the create is implemented. Again, the create goes through post to /entity/node. Again, the source code is included, so you can look into the details. Okay. Now, so you can use this application as the starting point. Deploy Drupal 8 to localhost.d8 or whatever, wherever you want to deploy it, I guess. And then your Ajax application, which you can, I'm developing actively. Here I have the Webpack set up in place, and I'm doing hot reloading everything, and all that is available. That application itself is running here, right? I can test it here. So the Ajax application can be deployed in a subdomain of your main Drupal domain, so that cookie sharing is possible. And then you can develop your application in standalone mode. So this is my Webpack running in hot reload mode. I can, and then if I go to the other window and start making changes here, right? Then things will show up in the other in here. Okay. So if I say, let me just change the word save. Yeah. So here's one button, save. I just add an exclamation sign to it, and back here, if I reload, well, the hot reloading is probably not working right now. But anyway, when I reload that, nothing happens. That's because whatever. Anyway, so if I had done it right, it would actually do hot reloading, and it works better when it's localhost, but this is happening in cloud.
Wouldn't you need to just clear cache? Because when you write code like that, isn't everything cached?
No, when you are, see, in this app, this is a pure Ajax React application, not a Drupal application at all.
So it doesn't, Drupal doesn't go ahead and cache a React code?
No, so because this has its own index.html. So it's, yeah, so this is, yep. So, but the reason why this didn't work mainly is because I have to, the hot reloading part is not working, I guess. So I can just say npm run build, and then it might work. I don't know for sure what the reason is, but it's okay. That's not important. But you can start developing your application like this in standalone mode, where Drupal is there, but only to serve the service. But what I have then done is you can also embed it back into your Drupal site. So if you go to my front page or any like, you can see this thing on the right is the same index.html. It's the same application embedded into Drupal as a block. So what I did was I went to structure blocks, and I have on the sidebar I have implemented, where is it? This is a content block. All I did was I put I have actually a small custom module that provides this block. All it does is give a very skeletal index.html. Sorry, not index.html. Sorry, this is plain HTML, and that is pulling my ReactJS app, which is the index.html of this app. This one. and it's being displayed. Hold on, where did it go? Yeah, so it's being displayed here. So this is the same app. Obviously, the styling and CSS is not done right, but you get the point. You could basically develop your application independently as a React.js app with Drupal as a RESTful backend, and then you can bring it back into Drupal, right? And so as you can see here, I can do full pagination. This is the same app. Okay, I can do edits, etc. All those things are possible. So let's go back to the presentation. I think we are almost done. So I think if you know the React.js app development workflow, then you know these things. I don't think we can go back and go deep into it, but all this information, the template, the working template is available in the project that I'm going to post. That's posted in the presentation, and you can run your Webpack dev server, etc. for hot reloading. All that information is in there. It's already set up. So I think we are just out of time. Okay, yeah, we went 10 minutes over actually. So I don't know. I wanted to ask, do you guys have any questions, reactions, thoughts, whether this is something you can use in your
Yeah, I had two questions. The first is, I didn't see in the app where you're actually authenticating. The app, how does the app authenticate itself? I didn't see that portion. The second question is, does patching and posting, well not posting, but patching does it support revisions in Drupal as well? So if you patch a node using your React app, will it create a new revision?
Very good question, and I believe it does. Whatever your defaults are is what will be applied. So yes, if you patch it, I can try to do that right now myself, right? So if I go here and I just say A, just added one letter to the title. I save it, and so the question is whether the node gets a revision. So obviously it did change the title, but let's see whether it added a new revision or not. I do not know. Oh wait, revisions have to be. How would I know? Sorry? Yes, so if they are on, but I think revisions are they on? Okay. Yeah, no, but where would it show me in the UI? I have to turn on which module to show revisions? Diff module is it, or?
Well, I think in core, once you start creating, yes, default. So when you start creating revisions, it will show.
Oh, so let me just say test. Let me just create this this one here. So that means it's not creating revisions. Good question. I never found out. Oh yeah. So now it shows up. So yes, the answer is it's not creating revisions, but I am pretty sure that when you are making the patch request, you can include a specific flag in your request to create revisions. So just like I did, I checked the checkbox and I put some information. So patch request is just an equivalent of that. Yeah.
Have you experimented any with like React Native for mobile using Drupal as the backend?
So the question is, have you experimented with React Native using Drupal as the backend? I personally haven't. I have done that for one time for PhoneGap, for example, not React Native though. So with using WebView and all that. So in which case you're effectively using the web infrastructure. But React Native, I don't see any reason why it should be any different. By the way, I didn't answer your first question actually. So yes, so your first question was how is the app authenticating itself? The app isn't. You are authenticating yourself to Drupal. So what I'm saying is there is no authentication within the app, but the fact that I'm logged into Drupal is what makes it work. If I log out of Drupal, all my modification will stop working. So let me just show you. I copy this URL, open this in incognito, right? So the read-only functions are working, right? Nothing else will work. Meaning, say, if I try to modify the title of this, if I say, and let's bring up the network tab so that whatever changes I'm making, I just make it 1C. I hit save, and I get error 403. So the app has no authentication of its own. It borrows the session of your Drupal login. So which means you will have to include. So the reason why this works for me is because my ultimate goal is to use the app within the Drupal UI, like this. So obviously I have to be logged in. If I'm going to be here, I have to be logged in. So I can force the user to log in before they can see my app embedded inside Drupal. So this is what I call islands of application within oceans of content. So content is surrounding, and then within that content there is this application. Because I want to use my application within the context of a Drupal page itself, embedded in a Drupal page, I just make them log in to Drupal itself, and the app doesn't need to have its own login. Does that?
Requirements change, and you need an app to access like sensitive information using GET, because right now GET is pretty much public. Any app will have been able to connect and get the list of nodes and stuff, but not patch or post. Is that what's happening? Because as an anonymous user, you can get the list of nodes from the view that you have created, but you can't post or you can't patch, which is fine. But what if you wanted that view to be private as well? You wanted it, not private, but you didn't want other React applications to be able to access that view, or even to display.
Oh, yeah, then it's easy. Correct. Okay, so there are two separate questions. What if you did not want read-only operations to be open to all? That you can just configure the view. In the view configuration, you can say role has to be authenticated user or something, and now it's not available. They can go to the page, they won't see anything. So that takes care of that. The second part was, let's say for some other reason you do need the app to authenticate itself, which means you're saying the usage model of the app is a standalone app like this, right? So in that situation, yes, you would have to create a workflow, a flow where the user authenticates themselves. And that you can use OAuth, you can still use cookie authentication if it is subdomain, but then you will have a login button somewhere on the top left or something. Or maybe as soon as they arrive, first thing that you do is send them to Drupal to get logged in. Once they get logged in, redirect them back to the app. So all those things, of course, you would have to do. But the cool thing is you won't have to implement authentication as such in the app. All you're doing is redirecting them to Drupal. They come back, and now they are logged in because of cookie. So thanks. Good question. Anybody else? Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for attending.